Good morning, friends. Now we start geographical thought. It is important topic. We discuss mainly some geographical concept, thought concept. So it is important for any types of examination. Especially it is in itself for helps in the subject of geography. Okay. Welfare geography. First we discuss welfare geography. Okay, welfare geography approaches deals with the issue related to inequality. किसका ऊपर इशू है ना inequality. Okay, related to inequality and institutes and injustice. Okay, so related to inequality and injustice. The approach grew up as a reaction to the quantitative and model building traditions of the 1960s. Okay, grew up होया था. In 1970s, there was a major redirection of human geography. 1970 के major redirection हुआ था human geography का towards social problem के ऊपर. 1970 में okay, poverty, hunger, crime, racial discrimination उस time बहुत ज़्यादा था. Access of to health, education. Okay, the issue such as the distribution of such. The issue is such as the distribution of fluids of economic development received attention mainly as a result of dramatic socio-political change Eastern Europe में देखा गया था, South Africa में. Okay. Therefore, the basic emphasis on the welfare geography is on who gets what, के कौन लेगा, where and how, and who suggests population of an area under review, a city, region and nation. Okay, and what refers various facility, क्या various facility के refer कर रहे हैं, handicapped, enjoyed and endured by the population in the form of service, communities, social relationships, etc. The where refers to the differing living standards in different area में living standard and area, and how reflects जो है process जो by which observe difference area कैसे जो observe difference जा रहा है. Okay, according to Dictionary of Human Geography edited by R.J. Johnston ने क्या दिया है, and Gregory ने and David Smith 1994 in a especially disaggregated society के बारे में बात किया. And the general level of welfare may be written as W equals to F into S1 Sn. So there is where S is the level of living or social well-being. S आप याद रख सकते हैं social well-being in a set of territorial subdivision. In other words, welfare is some function of the distribution of goods. Welfare is some other words में क्या distribution of goods varies among groups of the population defined by area of residence. Okay, so welfare is a function. Okay, distributed क्या है ना goods varies among groups of population defined by area of residence. Social well-being may be defined in terms of what people actually get. Okay, S equal to F into x1 xn. Okay, x represents the quality of the m goods. Okay, and goods and bads consumed or experienced. Social well-being may also be expressed in terms of distribution within the area in question. In terms of distribution, what the area in question. Okay, S equals to F into U1 okay. Okay, U is the level of well-being. Okay, satisfaction or utility of each of the K population. U जो है distribution of okay यहाँ पर देखिए well-being may be expressed as distribution within the area of question. S equal to F into U1 and UK. Okay, so U is the level of well-being, satisfaction or utility of each of the K population subgroups. In all the above expression, the interms may be weighted differentially and can combined according to any function to represent the combination of territorial levels of well-being, goods and bads or groups well-being that maximizes the objective function W or S. For identifying disparity in territorial distribution, developing social indicators of extreme importance. Such indicators may be as follow: income, employment, housing, education, social order, social participation, etc. The welfare approach found a new classical economics list suitable to explain social inequality. Okay, the Marxian the the Marxian economics provides a useful tools provide करते हैं Marxian economics tool for analyzing social problems को analyze करने के लिए because of the inherent tendency of capitalism. Okay, capitalism to create a disparity. The second level of the explanation deals with the process of how specific elements of a socio-political economic system operated. Okay, Dr. D.M. Smith 1977 में in his human geography and welfare approach he first suggested the approach which later merged with other approaches of geography dealing with the issue of inequality. The issue dealt with welfare geography demand as interdisciplinary approach of the highest order. Welfare geography demand an interdisciplinary approach of the highest order, and in a rapidly changing era of globalization, where the developing south stands deprived, that is the advanced north, there has been a renewed interest in the welfare geography. Okay, south stand deprived north and advanced north. No, there has been a renewed interest in welfare geography. Okay. Next देखिए the main difference between structuralism and post-structuralism. Okay, structuralism was a literary movement primarily concerned with understanding how language works and as a system of meaning production. Okay, that is why. Okay, how language works, कैसे language जो काम करते हैं system में meanings production के लिए. That is why to say structuralism asks the following question को कहते हैं how does language function as a kind of meaning machine. जैसे काम करते हैं language function में. To answer this question, structuralism turned its attention to focusing on the form of or structure of the literary work. Okay, and the particular use of language in the work. Okay, would allow structuralists to think of language as a kind of science. Okay, the primary theorist framing the ideas associated with structuralism with Ferdinand de Saussure. ओके, तो यहाँ पर लिटरेरी वर्क फोकस करते हैं लैंग्वेज के ऊपर. एंड द वर्क अलाउ स्ट्रक्चरलिस्ट थिंक ऑफ स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ लैंग्वेज इन काइंड ऑफ साइंस के. प्राइमरी थ्योरिस्ट जो फॉर्मिंग करते हैं आइडियाज एसोसिएटेड विद स्ट्रक्चरलिज्म वाज Ferdinand de Saussure, who developed the idea of that language was composed of arbitrary units that were void and concept of meanings. Language was composed of arbitrary units that were void of concept of meaning until they acquired meaning through language system that relied on differences between terms within their larger linguistic and social context. One of structuralist the structuralism characteristics view is to notion that language does not just reflect or record the world, rather than it shapes it, so that how we see it how we see is what we see. Okay, post-structuralism. देखिए post-structuralism बहुत important concept है. On the other hand, on the other is less singularly defined as a movement than structuralism. In post-structuralism a continuation and development of structuralism. क्या post-structuralism continuation and development करते हैं structuralism or a form of rebellion against it. Post-structuralism access structuralist of not falling through the implication. Structuralism, the post-structuralism accuses करते हैं ना structuralist को of not following through the implication. of the view about the language on which their intellectual systems is based. Again, poststructuralism offers a way of studying करते दिखाते हैं how knowledge is produced, कैसे knowledge produced, and critics structuralist premises. Again, it argues that because history and culture conditions the study of underlying structure, both are subject to biases and misinterpretation. A post-structuralism approach argues that to understand an object, it is necessary to study both the object itself and the systems of knowledge that produce this object. It is necessary to study both the object itself and the systems of knowledge that produce the object. In a member of literary theory fall under the larger umbrella of post-structuralism, including gender theory and reader response theories. These theories recognize the overarching notion that meaning does not exist outside the text, and that meaning is not fixed but rather contingent and unstable. Post-structuralism evolved alongside Jacques Derrida theories of deconstruction, which emphasizes this concept of unstable, unfixed meaning as it functions in language. Okay. According to Derrida, language is made up of units that do not contain inherent meaning and relate to other units. Or signifies through their difference. Meanings in the deconstructionist theory is therefore constantly different, never landing in one place or becoming stable. Post-structuralism emerged on his context, recognizing this lack of fixed or inherent meaning, and yet also acknowledging the need for language is to acquire meaning. Some main differences can be listed as follows. Origin: structuralism derives ultimately from linguistics. It believed that if we observe accurately, collect data systematically, and make logical deductions, then we can reach reliable conclusion. हमने सही तरीके से सबको ऑब्जर्व किया, डेटा सिस्टमेटिकली हमने कलेक्ट किया और लॉजिकल डिडक्शन में उसके ऊपर अगर सही तरह से काम किया, रिलायबल कंक्लूजन भी मिलेगा. एंड लैंग्वेज एंड द वर्ल्ड. स्ट्रक्चरलिज्म बिलीव्स in this and also in the methods. Systems and regions as being able to establish reliable truths. By contrast, poststructuralism derives ultimately from philosophy, which has always tended to emphasize the difficulty of achieving secure knowledge and about things. They inherit the habitat of skepticism and intensified attitude to language. Structuralists accept that the world is constructed through languages, in the sense that we do not have access to ratify other than through the linguistics. By contrast, post-structuralism is much more fundamental in insisting upon the consequences of the view that in effect reality itself is textual. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पर जो स्ट्रक्चरलिस्ट क्या है ना, लैंग्वेज एटीट्यूड्स ऑफ लैंग्वेज के बारे में बात कर रहा है, 2 नंबर जो है. एंड यहाँ पर कंस्ट्रक्टेड द लैंग्वेज इन सेंस ऑफ व्हाट वी डू नॉट हैव एक्सेस एंड द रियलिटी other than the linguistic systems. Post-structural is much more fundamental. In system consequences of that view at effect and reality itself is textual. Practical difference and initial problem here. Initial problem here is that post-structuralism often claims that क्या क्लेम करती है, इट इज़ मोर एटीट्यूड माइंड देन ए प्रैक्टिकल मूड ऑफ क्रिटिसिज्म. आफ्टर ऑल, in what sense would a Marxist or feminist or even liberal humanist criticism, so-called a method only in the loosest way, since none of the provide anything like a step-by-step procedure for analyzing literary work. All they offer in an orientation towards the character, central issue, and the body of work, and the post-structuralist critic engaged in the text of deconstructing the text. The process can be roughly defined as the applied post-structuralism. It is engaged in the task of deconstructing. Okay, and it is often referred to as reading against the grain and reading the text against itself, which is with the purpose of knowing the text as it cannot know itself. Okay, so at the same time, structuralists look the features of the parallel ethos and reflections. The deconstructionist looks for evidence of gaps, breaks, and discontinuities. What is the difference between structuralist and post-structuralist? Structuralism refers to the early 20th century movement primarily concerned with understanding how language works as system for producing meanings. Okay, and that is why structuralism asks following question: How does language function as a kind of okay meaning machine? To answer the question, structuralism turns your attention to form, focusing on the form of structure or of a literary work, and the particular use of language in the work allowed structuralists to think of languages as a kind of sense. The primary theorist framing the ideas associated with structuralism was Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure, who developed the idea that language was composed of arbitrary units that were unit acquired meaning. Okay, through a language system, they relied on differences between terms with their larger linguistics and social context. Post-structuralism defined the movement, then its structuralism. Then is structuralism. A number of theories fall under the larger umbrella of post-structuralism, including gender theory and reader responsibility. This theory advances the overarching notion that meaning does not exist outside the text. In addition, the meaning of the text is not fixed. The end result contingent or unstable. Post-structuralism evolved alongside French philosopher Jacques Derrida. His theory deconstruction, which emphasizes the context of unstable, unfixed meaning of function. It functions in language. According to Derrida, the language is made of units. Okay, that do not contain the inherent meaning of and relate to other units through their differences. In the deconstructionist theory, meaning is theory, therefore constantly deterred. Never landing in one place becomes stable. Post-structuralism and emerge in the context, recognizing its lack of fixed or inherent meaning, yet also acknowledge the need of language for language of backward meanings. Okay. Modernism and postmodernism. The term postmodern begins to make sense if you understand what modernism refers. In the case, modernism usually refers to the new classical Enlightenment assumptions concerning the role reason or rationally or scientific reasoning play in reading or understanding of the human condition. In extreme cases of postmodern theory, nature itself, postmodernism basically challenge those basic assumptions. Modernism, enlightenment and or humanism. Enlightenment, humanism, postmodernism. Okay, reason for and science provide accurate, object-level foundation of knowledge, and reason and science ideologies are the Nietzschean or Marxist sense, simply myths created by man. Religion transcends and exists independently of our existential, historical, and cultural context. It is universal and true. There is no universal objective means are judging any other concept as true. All judgments are true exist within the cultural context. Cultural relativism, reasons and human reason and human independence, freedoms are inherently linked. With just laws confirm to the dictates of reasons. We had these truths to be self-existent, evident. The application of the pure reason predicted Cartesian radical skepticism disproves the universal nature of the prior human freedom, independent freedom, and Western ideologies, just like reason and sense use the colonized foreign cultures that is Billion Congo, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan subject to domain. Okay. Because it is universal, reason can help us overcome all conflicts. No, science is no more universal. That is why. That is why culture's definition is of true. Science is paradigm of all the knowledge, of all true knowledge. Okay, no, okay. Language is the transparent, one to another relationship between significant. Mm signified and signified. Okay, and language is fluid and arbitrary and rooted in for knowledge relations. Meanings is fluid and arbitrary. Meanings is messy. Religion will lead to universal truths. All the cultures will embrace. No eternal truth, no universal human experience, no universal human rights, overriding or narrative of human progress. In some truth exists independent of human consciousness, and can be known through the application of reason. In some, truth may be exist independent of human consciousness, but there is no objective means of nulling it down. And enlightenment conclusions are laid from the assumptions. All postmodern conclusion laid from this assumption. Connotation: the application reason led progressive movements towards civilization, democracy, freedom, scientific advancement. The Enlightenment is prescribed means of building a better society. Connotations: there is no objective means upon which to predicate morality and right just governance. Postmodern theory is descriptive of the human condition. It describes an emphasis in philosophy and social relations. Modernist feminism: humans are oppressed, but particularly can use reasons to achieve both independence and regain their authentic selves. Postmodern feminism: the categories male and female, masculine, okay, females are themselves culturally constructed, okay, and our ideology, gender norms are culturally relative in all cultures and contexts. Existence of stable, coherent, self-independent of culture and society. The self is a myth and largely a composite, which is of one social experience and cultural context. The self is an ideology. Main difference: modernism and postmodernism. Modernism and postmodernism are the two literally main movements that took place in late 19th and 20th century. Modernism is the deliberate break from the traditional from Kiana poetry and prose. Okay, that took place in the 19th and early 20th century. Postmodernism, a movement that began in the mid 20th century. Movement that began in the mid 20th century is just described as a reaction against modernism. The main difference between the modernism and postmodernism is that modernism is a character by the radical break from the traditional forms of our prose and verse, whereas postmodernism is characterized by the self-consciousness and use of earlier styles and conventions. So a radical break from the traditions, okay, from forms and prose and verses, whereas postmodernism characterized by the self-conscious use of earlier styles and conventions. Okay, what is modernism? Modernism is a movement literature that took place during the 19th and 20th century in North America, Europe. Okay, in North America, Europe, modernism marks strong and deliberate break from the traditional styles and prose and poetry, the horrors of the First World War, and the changing ideas about reality developed by prominent figures such as Charles Darwin, Sigmund Freud, Karl Marx, etc. illustrate the many need for prevailing assumptions about the society is to be really resist. Modernists experimented with new forms and style. Okay, irony, satire, stream of consciousness, monologue, use of multiple point of view, and comparison were popularly literary techniques in the modernist literature. Championship of the individual and the celebration of inner strength, alteration, loss of desire were common themes of the movement. The idea of reality underwent a major change during this movement. The reality was seen as a constructed fiction, since modernists would believe that that the reality is created in the act of perceiving it. Basically, that they believe that the world is what we say it is. D.H. Lawrence, Weger, Virgin Woolf, and James Joyce. Okay, and some others have names. What is postmodernism? Postmodernism was a reaction against modernism, brought about the disillusion demand followed by the Second World War. Postmodernity characterized by deliberate use of earlier styles, conventions, making different artistic styles and media and general district of theories. It can be seen in radical break. Okay, from modernism. When we look some unique features of postmodernism, with some of these features include irony and Ferrari. So Ferrari. So यहाँ पर देखिए एक जो है ये जेम्स जॉयल एंड व्लादिमिर मैकॉली. एंड ये जेम्स जॉयल. जॉय तो पोस्टमॉडर्न एंड पोस्टमॉडर्निज्म एंड मॉडर्निज्म के बारे में पोस्टमॉडर्न एंड मॉडर्निज्म के बारे में कॉन्सेप्ट दिया है. नेक्स्ट सो यहाँ पर डिफरेंस देखिए. मॉडर्निज्म 19th century and 20th century and early 20th century. A style of or movement that aims to depart significantly from the classical and traditional forms. Postmodernism, 20th century style and concept which represent the departure from modernism, and it's characterized by the deliberate use of easier styles and conventions, a mixing of different styles and forms, and a general distrust of theories. True frame. Modernism was prevalent from the 19th century and the early 20th century style. Postmodernism was prevalent from the mid 20th century. Modernism was influenced by the First World War. Postmodernism was influenced by the Second World War. Radical and logical theory. Radical and logical theory. Modernism was based on using rational and logical means to gain knowledge. Since it rejected realism, postmodernism was based on unscientific irritation, thought process, and it rejected logical thinking. Earliest modernism rejected conventional style or prose and poetry. Modernism delivers use of mixture and conventional style. The modernism was prevalent in 19th and early 20th modern, and postmodernism was prevalent from the mid 20th century. Modernism was influenced by the First World War and it is Second World War. Modernism was based on the rational and logical means to gain knowledge. And realism. Postmodernism was based on the unscientific and irrational and through the process, and it was rejected logical thinking. And modernism rejected the conventional styles and process and prose and poetry, and postmodernism delivered uses of the maximum mixture of the conventional style. So friends, thank you. I think it will help to you. So it will completed some topics. So thank you. Okay, thank you.